Hello, everyone. It's Holly Signorelli, CPA and Wealth Manager, also known as the Money Therapist. And this is Money with a Twist of Sublime, where we talk about all kinds of things that come around money. Because money's it's a complicated subject because it affects everything. It's really how the world goes around. So whether it's right or wrong or good or bad, that's the way it is. So I'm always going to put my money spin on this. And today we have Erin Smith of the Starters Club, one of my very good friends. Love her. She's got such a great, consistent brand and a best-selling book. Tell us about that.
It's called Master the Start, 10 Ways to Get Out of Your Own Head and Create Your Dream Business, because a lot of people want, I'm sure, how do I get out of debt? A lot of people want to know how to get out of how to build a business, but there's a lot of head game going on in there, because even when you lay out the exact plan, it's not that simple.
Right. And it seems overwhelming, and then a lot of people, they just let go of their dreams, and that's what makes me sad in my practice when somebody goes out of business, they run out of money, and it's not just the business, it's their hopes and dreams. When somebody wants to have a business, whether it's small or big or whatever they want to do with it, even if they're just a one-man show, then it's their hopes and dreams. I mean, that's what America is all about.
Exactly.
Yeah. And a couple of weeks ago, I was reading this article from Forbes, and it was saying there's almost 30 million small businesses. Small business actually makes up about 99% of business, and I actually didn't even know that.
Yeah, I just heard that stat the other day at a Dave Ramsey event. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
what are we going to talk about today?
Let's talk about, with the case of money and business, hiring.
Yes.
I want to talk about, I see, one of the things I do is work with a lot of people starting but then growing. And there's that shift where you have to start hiring people. You cannot do it all yourself.
Right.
And the worst mindset a business owner can get in is, it's just easier. It's easier if I do it myself. We've all said it. It's the worst mindset. And so figuring out how to let go and how important it is, because if you're just going to do everything yourself, I honestly think you should just go get a job. I really do, because at that point you can get vacation. You can, kind of go do your thing, because it's so hard to let go, and you become a slave to this business that you started, and it really defeats the purpose in my eyes of starting a business.
I see that all the time. The one-man show, it starts out even after I sold my company, and when I started doing more of the media, I had to kind of start over. It's like you think, well, I've been doing this for so long, I'm just going to jump right into this, but it was new stuff, and I had to learn those things, especially this technology. And I'm not an idiot with technology, but sometimes I am, and I just think, what is going on with me? I'm just so left brain,
Right.
And I found myself doing everything like that, so then I quickly started to delegate again, because I really do think you have to have some kind of understanding, even if you're not good with technology, before you can delegate, or you won't know how much something's going to cost or how long it takes. But I see a lot of people trying to do everything themselves, and they always say that nobody can do it better than them. And that's not a leader. If you're going to own a company, you've got to be a leader. I don't care if you have 2 employees.
Exactly.
Yeah,
when I had my first business, I had that mentality. No, I was the only person who could do this. I was the best person at it. And then I realized I wasn't, and it felt really good not to be, when I could actually let those reins. So my first business was a pet sitting business, and I had a very, very niche market. It was a more high end. I didn't deal with people who, just had a dog. It was the people who those were their children. And I had it where I was like, I have to know every single client. I may not be doing all the jobs, but I had to know everybody. I had to know this, because the company will not survive if I'm not that person,
right?
Which is the most lethal mentality in the world. You don't want that. And I finally I had employees, but then I brought in management for her just to take it over for me. Oh my God. I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner?
Exactly.
Why didn't I do this sooner? It was the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, and this is a good point about hiring the right people, because when my company in 2013, it just suddenly almost doubled, and it was so fast, which sounds like a dream, but I was strung out. I mean, not getting enough sleep, because tax season's hard anyway. So it was just I was grateful, but then you have to try to hire people, and in the CPA roles, you can't hire somebody in February. They're already somewhere for tax season. So that was very difficult, and I ended up hiring a couple of the wrong people, and that was a huge mistake, because you hire the wrong people because you're getting a little bit desperate like that. And I ended up having to let them go and then hire someone else to clean up the mess. So it cost me more money. Yeah, by not taking the time.
Yeah. I think there's always, I always tell people, hire slow, fire fast. So, you know, the Maya Angelou quote, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. I've yet to find anybody that, you know, shows you that there's mistrust and then suddenly they're really trustworthy. It doesn't happen that way. So fire fast or fire slow. But really, you know, first of all, from a money perspective, if you're really scared of hiring, understand the ROI that person's bringing in. Like, be really clear about, even if it's an assistant, where is that assistant going to help you, and what are they going to do for you? And if you can say, they're going to take this off my plate, this off my plate, this off my plate, which means I can free up and I'm billing at $200 an hour, or we can sell more or whatever. Yeah. It becomes a no-brainer for you. But a lot of people just hire with no clear goal in mind of what that person's, they just want them to do something and help them, or they want another me. I'm sure you've said that before.
But you're not going to have another you, because then they would want to have their own business.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to have a clear path for them, and a clear path for your business is how this person is really going to add value. And it should be a return on investment. It really should be. Yeah. In either helping you sell more, helping you do more work, whatever that is. Make sure you have a really clear idea of what they're going to do for you.
Yeah, and what their role is going to be in terms of their personality, because I'm a big fan of, I know where I got my business to where it was so amazing and all the clients were happy and they loved all of my staff, is you have to share your vision with your staff. They need to be crystal clear on you know, your ethics, your morals, and not necessarily like certain belief systems, but you have to be on the same page. Right. And then what happens is you create this beautiful vibe in your company, whether it's a store or a service, or even though things are online now or on the phone. I just know that when I hired the right people and I took the time, and I listened to my intuition too, because I've noticed that, like, if somebody came into my office, and if I'm around somebody that has a negative energy, there is a very distinct feeling that I get in my head. And it's very different from if I'm around somebody who's sad. So I can tell the difference. And I think everybody has that, and sometimes they feel it in their gut, like they say, oh, my gut told me not to do it. If your gut tells you not to do it, don't do it, even if they seem perfect, because there's something that you know, and you shouldn't hire them.
I know. I've done that. So in my previous companies, I had it down. With the Starters Club, I hired a friend of her sister was in town for college. It worked out beautifully. It was awesome. So then she had to leave, unfortunately. And somehow I got a really bad brain when it came to hiring. And I would be like, well, you know, I know you don't know how to do this that well, but I'll teach you. I kind of had this like soft heart, which there's nothing wrong with a soft heart, but when your money's on the line, you kind of got to.
And you got to think about the clients too, because I've done that too in the past. Like, if I like somebody, then I want to give them another chance. Or if it's not working out, like the example I was given earlier, then I do feel bad, and then I try to, okay, I'm going to give you 2 weeks to find another job, and that's just 2 more weeks of me draining money.
Hell. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to put, I realized that I needed to put my clients first. They're paying me for my expertise, so, I have to do that for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think men have that problem? I always wonder if is it a woman thing?
I do. I think it's a woman thing, even though most people think I have like a masculine energy in work, and you're the same way. We're obviously not masculine, but I think that a lot of women that are in businesses now, they have that energy, but we're still women and we still have those emotions. Yeah. So we have to be careful not to let it get the best of us.
Yeah. I finally have stepped back and said, okay, I'm going to be smarter about this. It's going to be a slow progression in. And the minute, my problem is a lot of the people who I have working for me is I don't need you sitting in front of me 20 hours, 40 hours a week. I'd really rather you not, because that means I can get more work done.
Right.
I'd rather give you tasks, have you do it. If you have any questions, I'm here, but I need self-starters. Yeah. It's a very hard thing to find, because a lot of people think they want that. Yeah. But when they have that freedom, because I'll say, listen, here's 20 hours worth of work. I need you to get this done. I don't care if you do it all weekend. I don't care. It just needs to be done by X. Yeah. When they have all that time in the world, they have a hard time getting it done. And all of a sudden, it's the time. I mean, where is this? Oh, I'm getting to it. I'm like, you've had 2 weeks to do this. What are you But that's been the hardest thing for me, is to find those self-starters who are driven, who can, get it done and actually finish the task. But I've learned, you know what, when I start seeing that they're struggling, we kind of have a conversation and nip it in the bud right away versus, well, she's figuring it out, and then make that higher, continue or firing decision and move on.
There's a book that I read years ago that my friend, I wish I could remember the name, and I wasn't even thinking about it coming here, but it was about how you have to tap into each employee's psyche, because you could give the right person total flexibility and they will be a badass. Mm-hmm. But then someone else has to have structure, and if they don't have structure, and a lot of people need structure, then they're going to freak out too. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to be like, okay, I get it. To me, because everybody's so different, if somebody's the right person for the job and they know the job, then if I realize that there's somebody that needs flexibility and will not abuse that and will be awesome, I give them absolute flexibility. And what's cool about that is too, like if you let people set their hours, but you have to approve of them, obviously, then what happens is especially in an office, because you're more of a virtual company, right? Yeah. But in an office, you always end up with somebody who wants to come in really early and somebody who wants to come in late and stay late. So it's kind of cool because there's always somebody there. But you have to figure out, either through, talking to them. Like sometimes you just ask them, like, hey, do you like flexibility, or do you want a structure? And then you can kind of accommodate that, because for you it wouldn't be too hard, or anybody, to say, okay, this is 20 hours, I need it by Wednesday. Or to be the other way around and say, I don't care when you do it, but I need it by this date.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely it's tricky, because I actually had a girl where I hired her and she's like, I'd rather really sit with you. I'm like, oh sure, if you want to come, whatever it is. And then she needed more time. She was helping with her stepkids, and then, okay, well, I'm going to work from home today. I'm going to work from home today. I'm going to work from home today. I'm like, okay, fine. Yeah. Nothing was getting done. I could tell nobody was getting into certain documents. And then she came back and she's like, I need to go to an office job because I need more hours. Yeah. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
So she was unsettled. Yeah. And I think it's the same with contractors too, that you have to get an idea of what their schedule is, because some people are contracting because they want the freedom and flexibility, but they can take it too far. I like freedom and flexibility too, but a deadline's a deadline.
Right.
So
I agree.
It's a tricky equation, but we're going to take a short break, just a couple of minutes, and we're going to come back. So this again is Holly Signorelli, the money therapist, and Erin Smith, the Starters Club. We'll be back.
Hello everyone, this is Deborah Ritchie on the Clotheslines at Pegasus Netwaves. Did you know that confidence comes from the inside, but it absolutely gets reflected on the outside? And clothing is one of the best ways we can display confidence. And having an image that reflects your self-confidence sets you apart in a competitive selling industry. So if you want to learn more about this, contact me, Deborah Ritchie, at theclotheslines@yahoo.com, or give me a call, 972-632-8925. That's 972-632-8925, and I will show you that image and success are significantly linked. Stay tuned.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Danielle, and all of you know that I'm doing a cross-country bike ride later this year, but the bike is only half the story. We needed to find a great vehicle that was not only, fashionable, you gotta look good going down the road, but was reliable and had great towing power. So what did I do? I went and visited my friends over at Bobby Beck Louisville Volkswagen. We got hooked up with an amazing SUV. It's a 2016 Touareg. Talk about comfortable, smooth ride and towing power. Totally has all the bases covered. But that's not the only vehicle they have over there. They have the widest selection of VWs that you'll find anywhere in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So if you're looking for your next ride to go across the country or just across town, check out my friends at Bobby Beck Louisville Volkswagen. They're open 9 to 8 every day, Monday through Saturday. And you can also find them online at LouisvilleVW.com. That's LouisvilleVW.com.
Okay, we're back here, Money with a Twist of Sublime with Erin Smith, the Starters Club, talking about employees, contractors, and how to have a really great office with a great vision where everyone's on the same page and the clients, the customers are happy. So what are we going to talk about now?
So we talked about hiring employees. I'm really passionate about helping people hire the right service-based companies. So if you need, like, let's say you're not ready to hire an employee for certain tasks, but you want to bring in another company.
Yeah.
How do you do that right?
Yeah.
Because I see too many people, and I always share this story. When I started my second business, I wanted a PR company. I really wanted. I knew I could spin stories to. I knew that I could get on TV, newspapers, whatever. So I hired a PR firm. Thought she got me. She wanted me to sign. I think we started with a 4-month contract. Thought she understood me. Thought it was clear, but remember when last time we talked about the stomach, the pit in your stomach
didn't listen
feeling?
to your intuition.
I didn't listen to my intuition.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Erin, just you shut up, Erin, because she's the expert in PR. You're not. You run your business. Let her do her thing. Well, long story short, that was $10,000 completely down the drain. I did not get any RO back, and she just kept, this takes time.
I hate that when they say that.
I
It's
know.
like people always say that, it's going to take 6 months. No, it doesn't.
No.
Especially in PR.
Yeah, and so I think so many, entrepreneurs especially, we claim we don't want to know it all. We don't need to know it all. And that's absolutely true. You don't want to. But I don't feel like a lot of times we ask the right questions, or a lot of times the service providers aren't asking the right questions of us. And I see so many people in just so many different areas. It's not just, I don't want to throw PR under the bus, because I know a lot of people now doing PR well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Wish I would have known that.
I mean, that's anything.
10
Like
years ago.
with web also, you
Right.
could be talking to somebody and you think they're perfect, and, you have to ask more questions, and how does their schedule work, and, what's the expectation and the price,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough people really ask those questions. And I look at it like, if you were to go to a realtor and you were to say, hey, realtor, I like houses, and, I've got 3 kids. I need a house big enough for the kids. But you know what? You're the realtor. You're the expert in housing. I'm not.
Yeah.
So I trust you. You just go find me a house.
Right.
And there's,
they have no idea how many rooms you want.
Exactly. And it's
where you want to live.
Yeah. And a lot of times we do that same thing. Even though we say we're not the expert, we still have an idea of expectations. But so many times those aren't communicated. And a lot of these services, I think of SEO, I think of social media. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
And they can say, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to get you 20 followers next month.
Right.
Well, what does that mean? Like, are you buying those followers? Are they true followers?
Yeah.
Are you there's just so
Are
many
they going to be buy your products, or,
Exactly.
are they going to be engaged, like you said?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that, A, you follow your gut. B, you have every right to understand expectations and describe those expectations, because they, as a vendor, can say, no, you're completely out of line. There's no way we can do that. And you can adjust and find somebody else, or say, okay, we need to change things.
Yeah.
And I think, we sit back so many times and be like, well, they're doing their thing. I'm going to trust that something magical is going to happen in 7-8 months. I think you should be checking in every month, depending on the project, maybe even every couple weeks. But you have every right to ask questions.
Yeah.
And I see too many entrepreneurs really hesitant of that. I do a lot of consulting and helping people, align their social media strategy with online lead, bringing in online leads. And this doctor was talking about how he does surgeries. He wants to pull in national people. That's where his best business is. And
right.
It was declining. So I looked at his marketing. I was looking, and I said, okay, you're paying $1,000 a month in pay-per-click. Is that a national thing? No, they were doing it locally. And I'm like, well, there's your disconnect, right?
Completely,
So either you haven't communicated that with your marketing person, or there, something's going on here. But I just feel like so many times we sit back and we let them do their thing because we just don't want to interfere, or that's not our thing that we're really good at. But I think it's really important that you ask clear questions, you set your expectations, you follow your gut. You follow your intuition.
Yeah, and everything is so online now and so global, which is awesome, but we're in the beginning of this. I mean, it's like we're all guinea pigs right now. So everybody's trying to automate stuff to too much of a degree. So automating is great. Like, I have some courses that have modules, but then those modules come with me on the forum for like a month to answer the the detailed questions. I think some people are starting to do that now, but just in general, like somebody with social media, and again, not picking on any industry.
Right.
I'm saying everybody,
Right.
because like doctors, you have to still go to the doctor. That's not ever going to be online, right? And same with CPA work. Everybody's electronic now, so people don't come into the office, but it's more of a finite thing.
Right.
But you can only package everything so much to where it's not helping anybody.
Right.
And everybody's on autopilot now because of the whole social media thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're losing the whole connection.
Right.
Even with people that we follow or we like their brand, it's like I think that's why Facebook Live is so popular.
Right.
And I like to do that a lot. I know you do in Periscope, and I still struggle with Periscope. I don't know why. I think it's just like whichever one you do first is easier.
I think it is, because Periscope was so easy for me, and now Facebook Live, it just feels like more of a graveyard. Yeah, and I'm like, where is everybody? Where are my hearts? I know they have love
I'm
and
the
thumbs up
opposite.
now.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't do enough actively on Twitter and to get a bunch of people on there, like maybe 10 or 14.
Yeah.
But then I'll get like 500 views on Facebook, but maybe not live. It might be the replay. So, yeah, I think it's just what you're on the most. But, yeah. So, and also this is kind of off subject, but like you were talking about, on what we were talking about people not being on the same page, is you were talking about the real estate. Well, that did happen to me this was years ago when I had my townhouse, or before I got it, and I was very specific because I knew I'm so type A that I was like, I knew exactly what I wanted, how many bedrooms, what general area, because at the time my son was young, I needed help, with my parents and stuff. I was very specific. And then he even used that phrase that buyers are liars. Have you ever heard that?
No.
That buyers are liars. Yeah, that they don't know what they want. And so he kept showing me houses in completely different areas, out of my price range, being a single parent at the time. And I thought, wow, I'm giving you... I was so explicit that it should have been easy for him. Because if it just had if it was in this area with 3 things at this price, boom,
Done.
I would just walk in and buy it. So it's just going back to what you're saying. It's like... You have to really be clear on what you want from a contractor or an employee or anybody else.
Exactly.
And make sure that you're on the same page and that they're not going on autopilot. And I think anybody that's a professional, even a one-man show, doing any kind of service like that should give you some kind of email or something telling you where I don't even think you should have to reach out to someone to say, hey, I'm just checking in. Why aren't I checking in? Why aren't you sending me an email?
Exactly.
Because if I told you I'd have something on Wednesday and I realized I wouldn't, and it was going to be Thursday, you'd get an email from me. You wouldn't be having to email me on Thursday.
Where are you?
Yeah. So I think that's, again, where when people don't delegate or have control over their schedule or their emails, then their emails get full. And I always tell people, unsubscribe if you're not reading those emails. If you've signed up for stuff that you didn't know, unsubscribe. But I also say don't unsubscribe from me, okay?
Yeah, me either. Keep mine.
But if you're not ever reading them, don't let them clog up your email because it gets overwhelming. And then I find that people just don't do, how when you get overwhelmed, you don't do anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, and because I think it's pretty easy to be in control of your email if you get rid of all the spam and the unsubscribing, that you're not, that's not only, half of the emails people get are crap.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually have one email pretty much specifically for if I want to see how maybe a launch is happening, if I want to see how they're doing something, I will subscribe to it, but I only put it in that email. So I know there's really not much more going through that. Yeah,
I have 4 now, and that may sound like a lot, but it's actually really organized so that I can separate the CPA, my financial planning has got to be separate because of the rules, and then my personal, and then money therapist. So, if I see something going through there, like if I do any kind of media thing, then I know, because if you don't get back to them on time, they'll move on.
Oh, yeah.
so I'm
that's
like,
a good idea to have that separated then, too.
And then every once in a while, somebody uses the wrong email, and then I just move it to the right one, and then you can totally focus.
Yeah.
Like if I'm only in one email at a time, it's easy and I'm focused versus I think a lot of people have one email and they're just bouncing around from subject to subject, and then you're kind of switch your brain, back, what am I doing, and who am I talking to? And then they don't get things done on time. Yeah,
I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
No, I by bad email practice, I lost several $1,000s because my management company in a house I had in Arizona emailed me to tell me my tenant was moving out. They never followed back up with me. I didn't see the email.
Yeah.
And it was sitting vacant for a month. And I was wondering where my check was, and I went to reach out. Or actually what happened was I was wondering where my check was, and my next door neighbor was like, oh, yeah, they moved out several weeks ago. I'm
my
like,
gosh.
What? And I called them, and they go, we sent you an email. Didn't you get it? I'm like, come on. So have a clean email box.
So there you go, everybody. You need to get control of your emails. And that is the end of this episode, Money with a Twist of Sublime. So, Erin, how can people find you?
I'm very easy to find, just thestartersclub.com, The Starters Club, all over social media. It's all the same, so very easy. And I'm pretty much on every channel.
Yeah, and your book's on there too, right?
Yes, you can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble,
It was a number one
Apple.
bestseller.
It was a number one
the
bestseller.
First week, I was so impressed.
Yes.
I was so mad at myself for not doing what she did.
So master the start. So if you're thinking about starting a business or just need a little pep, it's a good book to read.
All right, everybody, have a great day.
Bye, everybody.